Hey, I'm the Stacey Harris. Thanks for watching the replay. I'm super stoked that you're here. Today we are going to talk about why posting content that is an exact duplicate in all of the places might not be your best bet. In fact, we're going to break down kind of how to choose what specific content goes to what specific places. It's going to be a good one. As you're joining me live, hit me up in the comments. Let me know you're here. Say hello. I'm really excited for today because I feel like it's been a little while since we did a live show. Just you and me. I'm excited. So again, leave me your comments. Let me know where you're watching from. Say, hey, we will get started when this guy reaches 0 with the official show content. But this is always a time where I like to connect with you and catch up on your week so far. Is anyone else really surprised it's September? I don't know when that happened, but it happened. And so here we are in September. And I'm getting things done. In fact, we're talking a lot about what's happening for the rest of the year, sort of in my space. We talked a little bit about it on the podcast on Tuesday. If you haven't listened to that one, it was a new 3 Things You Need to Know episode, which was awesome. And then also in Backstage, we're talking about your Q4 plans and what you need to do now for Q4. So it's tons of like, holy moly, the end of the year is coming, kind of happening around me. Not to mention my own, hey, the end of the year is coming. What am I doing? What needs to be executed on the stuff I already have planned? So there's a ton of that. If you feel the same way, again, let me know in the comments because I want to feel less alone in that. In the like, well, when did that happen? Was I maybe not paying attention for a while? So I'm really excited. Hey, those are joining us. I can see our little view count thing going up. Definitely be sure to say hey and let me know you're watching. I love to chat with you during this particular segment of the show. So be sure to say hey. I am just pulling up my little comment window so I can actually see your comments and your reactions. That's exciting. Hey, Lisa's here. Hi, Lisa. Look, there's Lisa. Hi, Lisa. I don't know why you're over there. Let's put you over here. Hi, Lisa. This is a great thing about ECAM. It's I can just move stuff during the show. By the way, and I feel like we say this at some point in the beginning of every episode, this is in fact being broadcast through ECAM Live. Yeah, I think it's called ECAM Live. It's a Mac only software, but it is what allows me to do things like this and that logo over there, it's hard to point at it. All that happens through ECAM. This is actually a stock image of the gold foil with a countdown that's actually built into ECAM over it. And then that's just my logo right over there. Right there. That's my logo. This is a microphone. It's going to be a quality show. Let's see what Lisa says. This topic already annoys me. It's so much easier to post the same thing everywhere. I feel like you're going to burst my bubble. See, Lisa, it's like you already know what's going to happen in the show. Just consider it burst right now. You might have ECAM. Lisa says she thinks she has ECAM. I love it. It's actually super easy to use. I find. But you can do a lot of really cool things. And this is like the least interesting stuff you can do with ECAM. There's a ton of like legit cool things you can do with ECAM, including like green screen stuff and all sorts of stuff, which at some point I may play with. But for right now, this is as complicated as the show gets because, content, not fluff, right? Also, do you really need to think I'm in a library? I don't feel like you do. I really don't. I don't feel like you do. Lisa says she has all the tools. Does anyone else feel this way? Like they have all the tools already, but they're not actually using them and or sure what they do? I have been on a real streak lately of getting rid of things that I am not actively using in my business because I am a tool hoarder. In fact, I had to unsubscribe from AppSumo because it's been legit terrible how often I purchase something that I never, ever use. I mean, I have found some things that I do use, but for the most part, no. And so that's really, it actually leads into a conversation we're going to have today, is the intentionality behind what we're posting. And so we're going to start the show officially here. Thank you guys for hanging out with me in the pre-show. Yay for purging. Yes, I'm all about it. I'm the Stacey Harris, social media strategist and trainer. We're going to talk today about why posting one thing, just blanket across your networks, is not your most effective way of promoting. Because here is the deal. Different channels have different personalities. Your audiences are going to be slightly different. Yes, but more importantly, the way you communicate on different channels is going to be different. Now, this doesn't mean that, yes, I'm sure. Lisa, are you sure? Yes, Lisa, I'm sure about all the things I just said. And this next thing, are you ready? When you post a blanket piece of content across all of your channels, you're going to have some less than effective things. However, if you take that one piece of core content where you say blog post XYZ and you dress it up slightly differently and then share it across your channels, then you're going to see real results, because now we have points where we're connecting really and authentically and in a much less creepy way, because we're behaving the way that is native to that channel. You would not want to post the same kind of content on your Instagram stories as you do your Facebook page, because there's distinctly different personalities happening in that space. This happens even inside of a network. When we're talking about Instagram stories versus your grid, I actually talked about this on stories yesterday. You're going to have slightly different content, slightly different personality when we talk about the content that we have going up in our stories versus what we have going up in our grid. Our stories can be a little more messy. They can be a little bit more about personality and connection and the core of your content. Your grid is going to want a little more polish. Think of it like your gallery. That's where you're going to show the best of the best. Now, again, doesn't mean there's not crossover. In fact, on my story today, I posted a post from my grid, and then I extended the conversation around what we were talking about in the grid post. We're talking about the VIP days that we have open for September and October. I wanted to answer some questions, share a little social proof from some people who had been with me in the office. And so I was able to take something from my grid, post it in my story, and then extend that conversation with a series of stories about some of the questions I was getting. Now, again, not the exact same content, but everything is getting people to the same place. Lisa has a really great question that I want to answer here. How does Instagram post different than a Facebook post? Doesn't one share to the other? Can't written stuff go everywhere? And I'm going to leave this up because I'm going to break it down sort of piece by piece. An Instagram post and a Facebook post are going to be fundamentally similar. There's going to be an image and there's going to be copy. What's different is how you're connecting with those different channels. So your audience on Instagram is generally going to have a slightly different age demographic or persona than your Facebook page does. If you're not sure if that's true, look at your analytics. You may really find that there is a stark difference. I know for me, the older part of my audience hangs out on Facebook, the younger part of my audience hangs out on Instagram. They also tend to have fundamentally different approaches to the same problem. So where I can provide one piece of content that speaks to both of them, I need to use two different pieces of language to actually drive them to that solution, because they're talking about their problems differently. That comes from just having a fundamental differently aged segment of my audience in each place. Now, also, the way we engage and communicate is different on Facebook. For example, we're not using hashtags, whereas with Instagram, that is a core part of how we're getting our content out there. So that's a fundamentally different tactical thing that's going to be different with Facebook and Instagram. Yes, you can absolutely share one thing to both places by just hitting a button. But here's why that's not effective. Because we're having different kinds of conversations. We're breaking up our text differently. We potentially are talking to a slightly different audience. You've got to make sure that we are customizing the experience so we can really maximize the effectiveness of it. The last part of this, and then I'll get to the fact that I'm hurting your brain. You can't written stuff go everywhere. In theory, it can, except look at how much differently you write on Instagram than how you write on Facebook. Look how much different the audience, the headspace an audience is on LinkedIn versus the headspace an audience member is in on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter. So those could all be written posts. I mean, they're going to be paired with an image on Instagram, but they could all be written copy. But your audience varies slightly. And so the zhuzh, the copy you write around it, sending them to one core message has to be appropriate for those different places. This doesn't have to, as Lisa says, you're hurting my brain. This doesn't have to hurt your brain. In fact, this could not hurt your brain when you build out a plan and a strategy. And this is why, and I talked about this in the Brave Society, and I say that because Lisa and I are both in the Brave Society. And we're going to actually have a freebie and a little freebie training coming out in next week about this, which is building out your content calendar for 30 days. In fact, we're going to have the content calendar 30-day toolkit. It's going to be everything my team and I use to build out 30-day plans, editorial, email, or content, email, and social. It's going to be awesome. And that's really the key to this not hurting your brain, because we're working backwards from a goal. We know we want to get more clients on our call sheet for sales conversations for one-on-one coaching, right? Great. So how do we get them there? Well, we send out these emails and we send out this content. Great. Now, how does this content break into social? And we're actually going to take that, list out the social networks that we're using, and we're just going to write a little bit of copy that is specific to each network on the Google Sheet. That's what we use, the Google Sheet. So we already have it done. We're crafting all of this stuff when we're crafting the content so that it just gets scheduled. So we're not having to live in this hurting of the brain every single day. We're not having to live in this, like, I have to navigate this moment to moment. No, as we're creating everything, we're creating all the pieces. That way we can set that foundation and we can just make time to engage so that we're not constantly having to navigate, how do I adjust this message? And again, remember, our core piece of content is the same. So we're driving them to a blog post which sells them, which has a call to action to book a call to see if one-on-one coaching is a fit. It's just the social stuff that we change. It's not fundamentally changing our core. It's just making sure that how we're driving them to that destination is appropriate for each of the places where they're looking for that direction. That makes sense. It was a very convoluted metaphor that went off tracks, but that's how I roll. But that's why we're changing these things up, because again, we want to speak specifically to the people we're talking to. This Facebook Live wouldn't make sense to look like this and happen in an Instagram video, because this doesn't make sense on that platform. Now, I can repurpose this video and share it to YouTube, because that's the strategy I have chosen. But in most cases, it would be most effective if I then edited out all of the live stuff, all of the engaging with you, and had a curated nugget of content. Now, in some cases, we choose not to do that. We choose to go with what's easy. That's what I'm doing. So, but figuring out what we can do and where we maximize it. Lisa's got a great question. Would you use this as a podcast? I don't use my Facebook Lives as podcasts, and here's why. Because the part where I just called you out, or the part where I was engaging with everybody at the beginning, doesn't translate well to a podcast. So if I were to use it as a podcast, I would actually edit out all the parts where I was talking to you, because it makes no sense in a podcast listening experience. Now, the same is true for YouTube. However, guess what I'm going to do? Tomorrow, my team will put this up on YouTube. I'm making that choice because YouTube is a secondary network for me. YouTube is something like, yeah, if we get traffic from there, great. There's a call to action to get reminders for the live show. I'm really trying to drive traffic from there to this destination. So I want you to know that this is the experience we're having somewhere else. Whereas the podcast, I'm very much so trying to drive you into the next place on your sales cycle. Generally with a podcast, that's backstage. Sometimes that's VIP days, but whatever that is, I'm very intentionally trying to get you not here, if that makes sense. So a lot of it is, again, figuring out that destination. That's going to be the most important thing. In fact, I had a call with somebody earlier and they were talking about working with somebody to help them with their marketing, and they never really saw an ROI. But a big part of that was because no one was really clear on what the goal of the marketing was. If you don't know where you're ultimately going to make money, whatever marketing you do is going to be ineffective because you're not intentionally moving them in a specific place. And that's really the core of this. And this is really what I want your takeaway to be. Be intentional about what you're doing. Be intentional about the choices you're making, where you're showing up, and how you're showing up in those places. Intentionality will go a long way towards actually seeing results. So whenever you're like, oh, well, I should just do this because somebody said to do it, or Stacey talked about how great this was. No. Where is this intentionally moving us towards our destination? If it's not moving us towards our goal, there's no reason to be doing it. Cool? I like Lisa said intentional is her word and energy for the year. Yay! It should be. It should be everybody's word for their lifetime. Because a lack of intentionality around your marketing is why you're getting frustrated and burned out with it. When you get intentional, not only will you get results, but it'll get a whole lot more fun. Partially because there's actually results. I won't lie. All right. That's the show for today. It was that simple. I want you to start thinking really intentionally about where you put this stuff. There was one more question that I promised I would answer in this description. And that's how I choose what goes where. It all comes from that goal. So we kind of talked about this, but I just want to make sure nobody missed it. Again, it all comes from knowing what that goal is and working back from there. Cool? Again, we're going to have a whole free training about this coming out next week. I'll probably announce it officially on this live show next Thursday. So you should come watch it. If you want a reminder, Betty Bot can help you with that. Just type show in the comments and she'll get you all hooked up with reminders. And then you'll get a little reminder whenever I go live because I'll go, hey, I'm live. Come watch. Okay. All right. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks, Lisa, for engaging. Remember, I like people who leave comments best. So if you're watching the replay or you're joining us live and you want to make sure you get in my good graces, leave a comment. I'll talk to you later. Bye.